Thank you,
Others in support.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, Rhonda Pascal on behalf of Secretary of State Deborah Bowen in strong support. We already, at the Secretary of State's office website, have the federal form available online. As of April of this year, our IT staff has made the data collected by that form available for county elections officials to be able to obtain that data so that they no longer have to key that data in. What this bill will do is allow us to also obtain the additional information on a state voter registration form that is not included on a federal form, so then the elections officials will not have to contact the voter in order to obtain that information. The voter would still be required to print out that form and sign it and mail it in, but again, this will create additional efficiencies for elections officials. Happy to answer any questions and respectfully urge the committee's support.
Others in support? Opposition? Questions from the committee? Will of the committee?
Move the bill.
Have a motion? Please call the roll.
Motion is to pass. Correa?
Aye.
Correa, aye. LaMalfa?
Aye.
LaMalfa, aye. De Leon?
Aye.
De Leon, aye. Gaines, Lou.
That measures that. We're going to place it and call for others to add on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate
Have
it.
any other business, sir? Not
Thank
today.
you, Chairman.
Mr. Norby, you want to come back, or
Aye. Yes, so.
we missed a couple of other folks here?
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sir. You have AB 1146?
I do. The State
Well-
Federal Contribution and Reconciliation Act of 2011. This sets the reportable amount contributed to a candidate in California at $200. There are 4 reasons why you should vote for AB 1146. Number 1, this reconciles us with the current federal requirement of disclosability at $200. If the federal government is requiring a congressional candidate who is running in a district of about 500,000 people to report at $200 or above, why should a gubernatorial candidate or a state senate candidate running in a district larger be subject to a different disclosability? It only makes sense to set them at the same, $200. 2, COLA. The current $100 disclosability threshold was established nearly 30 years ago, back in 1974. In fact, that was 35 years ago. It has never been adjusted for COLA. Now, we adjust everything for COLA in this state. Very few things get caught in a place where they're established by statute and have to be changed progressively by an act of the legislature. This is one that was. But there's every expectation, if you look back at this political reform back of 74, that it would be changed for inflation. It never has been. Number 3, reduction of paperwork. This would reduce fairly minor political contributions in terms of the paperwork requirement, and in so doing, number 4, this would help grassroots candidates who would have an easier burden in terms of their reportability. Because of this adjustment was supported in recommendation number 4 by the Bipartisan Commission of 1998, who in their report, overly complex and unduly burdensome campaign rules are exactly that, overly complex, unduly burdensome. The FPPC, and a letter I have right here that I'd like to submit to the chair from Ann Revelle, if I could submit this, has taken a neutral position on the bill, saying this is perfectly legitimate for the legislature to periodically look at these requirements and adjust them based on current economic reality and the relative value of the dollar. This bill also has the support of the California Political Treasurers Association, and no one is more familiar with overly burdensome and unduly complex regulations than is the California Political Treasurers Association, whose president I have next to me, David Gould, and who would like to address this bill.
Witnesses and supports.
The California Political Treasurers Association is a body that's a nonpartisan body that represents all of you, that are elected officials. Pretty much all of the elected officials, use professional treasurers in some capacity, either as their treasurer or as the person who prepares their reports. We have studiously looked at the Political Reform Act over the years and tried to simplify some of the act. Unfortunately, it has never really come to pass, okay, like with the McPherson Commission, which we had expectations that something might happen, and with the FPPC more recently with Dan Schnur when he tried to come up with some recommendations. And, you know, this is one way to simplify the act, okay, to consolidate it in conjunction with the Federal Election Act, and it also makes it so much easier for local campaigns. I know that I serve as treasurer for hundreds of political action committees around the state for lots of local elected officials, and one of the major burdens that they have is, okay, the completion of campaign filing reports. When they come to me, they ask, you know, how complicated is it? You know, can we do this ourselves? And I say, you know, well, you can, but then you're facing the consequences of not getting it right. You have to have the person's occupation and employer. You have to have the person's street address, blah, blah, blah. Okay, all of those requirements apply on contributions of $100. And, you know, a lot of the people who are donating to campaigns that are donating $100 are really not sophisticated political donors. The sophisticated political donors, okay, probably are way up there, okay, but certainly the $100, okay, is not, okay, something that anybody held in stone. When I was one of the people who wrote the Political Reform Act in the early 70s, okay, we talked about, at that time, coming up with an amount, and we came up with an arbitrary amount of $100, but it also was in everybody's mind in that room, including the governor now, who was not the governor even then. It was before he was governor. So I know this is sort of like deja vu, going back in time. But you know, we were never under the assumption that it was going to ever be kept at $100. And, you know, to think now that, like, COLA would make it $440. So to, you know, ask for it to be $200 to coincide with what the state is, or what the federal government already requires, I think is perfectly reasonable. It's going to make everybody's job easier, okay, on a local level. Too, all the counties that are reviewing campaign filing reports on a local level have to review all these little contributions, okay? Again, under state law now, occupation and employer, street address are all requirements. Okay, these are things that are much harder to find on people who are not really sophisticated people. I mean, if, you know, a person owns a business, okay, we're going to be able to go online and we're going to find that business. We're going to figure out an address for them and it's going to be pretty easy. But for, you know, a person who's a retired person or something like that, you're not going to find them. You're not going to be able to get that information, and it's really makes it almost impossible to really comply. This, as I said, is, you know, a step in that we all consider is something long overdue. And again, our association represents every single professional political treasurer in the state, and every single one of them unanimously supports this. And there you have it. I haven't testified on a bill here in Sacramento in about 30 years, okay? So you got me for once.
Others in support. Opposition. I said opposition. What? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Rhonda Pascal on behalf of Secretary of State Deborah Bowen, respectfully in opposition to the measure. While it is true that under federal law there is a different disclosure requirement for congressional candidates, California's had a long-standing standard for disclosure of state and local campaigns, and this measure takes a step backward from that existing standard and will result in less transparency. And it's for that reason that the Secretary has an opposed position and respectfully request a no vote. Happy to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Others in opposition. The will of the committee? Mr. Liu, you had a question?
Yeah, no, I was just saying, so Senator Norby, I thought about this bill for quite a while, and thank you for bringing it. I understand
thought about it a lot, too.
I just want to say the reason I won't be able to support it is there is a perception that legislators get contributions for a bunch of high-dollar donors, and this would increase that because it would sort of have a bunch of people not disclose anyone who's under 200. I think if more people had to disclose all their small value donors, it would actually be a good thing and have the correct perception, which is we have all contributions from all sorts of folks. Otherwise, this sort of skews it. So when someone just looks at a report, they get this sense of, well, this person has like no grassroots support. And so over a systematic statewide basis, I think this change would have that effect of making it look like none of the folks in office have any grassroots support. And so that's why I'm not going to be able to support it today.
If I might,
Could I respond? Oh.
Please,
This does not prevent a candidate from disclosing those small donors. If you get $20, $100, you can still disclose them. It just doesn't require it. So if at the last minute, if there's a grassroots campaign and you got 5 checks for $100, you can't find who the people are, you don't know if they have occupations, do you return them, do you deposit them and lose them, it would allow that. But it doesn't prevent you from doing so.
Oh, no, I understand. But see, I want other legislators to disclose. I mean, I want everyone to disclose.
And I'll also submit that this really would have very little effect on us. It would have more effect on those small contributor-based campaigns where the burden of disclosure is very, very high. We've all filed papers, and you can imagine the intimidating factor when somebody's running for a school board race or a city council race, and the first thing they get from the registrar or their city clerk is not a congratulations, you're running, thanks for serving your community, but stacks and stacks of intimidating paperwork, which it takes, even for a small campaign, a professional treasurer, extremely expensive to get through this. This keeps a lot of people out of the process. And I think far from rolling back the standard, as the Secretary of State has discussed, this $100 established in 1974 would now be over $400. So instead of rolling back the standard, we're trying to maintain the standard at the value that dollar was at the time that law was originally passed by the voters.
I'd just like to add, Senator, that I know that many campaigns have come to me in the past, okay, ones like Clean Money, okay, who specifically want to disclose all their contributions of $1 or whatever else. And when they have, and, you know, they're informed, okay, that, well, hey, it's going to cost them some extra money, but if they want it, if they want everybody's name to be there, there is nothing in the law that, you know, over-disclosure is not at all, you know, anything that anybody cannot do. And, you know, I recommend to candidate campaigns when they are specifically, you know, gearing up towards a grassroots effort, and that is what they want to do, that they should do that. Okay, but, you know, but it is a burden, really, when you really look, not so much really on the legislature as much as when you look at the local level. Okay, and it becomes a real hassle for people, and, you know, it would simplify the process by making it really the $200 as a requirement.
let me say that I also struggled with this bill. I think your goal, Mr. Norby, of simplicity and making it easier for folks is a good goal. Yet at the same time, I believe under the existing law, if you get $50 right now, if later on you get $100, that gets you, or $150, you have to disclose. It's cumulative. You
Correct.
just don't go. So your treasurer, if they're doing a good job, have to keep those records anyway. Whether it's 100, 200, or 400, those records have to be kept, and you have to ask for that information. At least that's good policy. So, I'm of the same opinion like Mr. Liu, that right now folks have a certain perception of politicians, not elected officials, politicians, and that is that, people want more transparency. So that's going to drive me today in making a decision here. Ms. LaMalfa.
Well, Mr. Norby, I noticed you obviously got strong bipartisan support.
We did. When the FPPC doesn't even oppose it, you're onto something good.
Yeah. This was a two-thirds vote requirement.
It was.
And you're able to move that out of the assembly, obviously bipartisan.
Right.
So I think...
No votes at the committee level. Mm-hmm. In fact, I was asked by Assemblymember Hall specifically to keep my comments short because he was for it already, and I didn't even need to discuss it with him.
Right, the more you talk, the more votes you lose.
That's right. I don't know if that's the case here. I don't know if I had him in the first place, but I think I have the argument on my side.
Well, as an example here, when I first got involved in the state legislative scene, contribution limit was $3,000 at the maximum per election, and then that's been adjusted up over the years. I think 3 or 4 increments to I think 32, 33, 36, and now the $3,900 level. So in time, we've seen that level's been adjusted as an appropriate maximum contribution, and so it is makes you wonder why this $100 threshold has been kept so long when the price of things over time has moved as well. And when we look at the level of requirements there for local committees and for grassroots folks to try and do this, it doesn't seem unreasonable that this adjustment would be helpful at this time. And so nobody's going to do considerably more with a campaign with a $200 contribution than a $100 one. That disclosure difference is not going to make or break very many campaigns, but actually probably encourages more mid-sized and small donors than big donors, which I think builds a much bigger grassroots effort out there. So I see it as encouraging people to be mid-sized donors and candidates to be actually talking to more people in that sense instead of just going after the big cats all the time. So I see it as a very positive move forward in disclosure and in efforts that candidates are making in the reality of having to raise money for these a very undesirable one at times, but nonetheless move in the right direction. So that's why I had moved the bill and do support it.
Thank you.
Well, the committee, did you just move the bill, sir? Thank you. Madam Secretary, call the roll.
Correa. LaMalfa. LaMalfa, I. De Leon.
Aye.
De Leon, I. Gaines. Lou.
You have 2 votes.
Thank you.
Mr. Hill, welcome. Come on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Thank you. I authored AB 41 to close a loophole which has allowed the High Speed Rail Authority board members to vote on issues after having received thousands of dollars in consulting fees from firms with stakes in those issues. This bill simply adds the High Speed Rail Authority to the list of agencies bound by advanced disclosure requirements in the Political Reform Act.
You have a motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Under this bill, a High Speed Rail Authority board member, when confronted with an issue at a public meeting in which he or she has a financial interest, must identify that interest, recuse him or herself from discussing or voting on the matter, and leave the room until the discussion and vote is concluded.
Drew, I think you're
Thank
ahead
you,
of the
Mr. Chair.
curve here, so witnesses in support.
Staff member.
Opposition.
Staff member, we can have him be a witness too.
Will of the committee?
Just a comment in addition to the motion there. If you wanted a friendly amendment to just stop all spending on high-speed rail, I'd jump right in there with you and help you on that too. So but I
Senator, that may happen, but probably not in this bill, but it may come around sooner rather than
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I
just had to get the plug in there.
Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I just want to know, will the high-speed rail go through the committees of Palo Alto and Burlingame and Hillsborough and Belmont?
That remains to be seen.
That remains to be seen. Okay.
I think it starts in the city of Anaheim, sir, for clarification. We have a motion? Please call the roll.
Motion is due pass to rules. Correa.
Oh, the monorail. Excuse me. I confused it with the monorail, not the high-speed rail. Aye.
Correa, I. LaMalfa. LaMalfa, I. De Leon. De Leon, I. Gaines. Lou.
You have enough votes to get your bill out. We'll place it on call for others to add on. Thank you, Mr. Hill.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for your brevity as well. Sir, come on up. Mr. Marty Block.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The opposition will come later.
She's with us on this one.
Got me.
A key principle of our democracy, of course, is one person, one vote. Every vote should be counted. We all agree on that. In 2004, there was a mayoral race in San Diego where one of the candidates had 5,500 votes thrown out. They were thrown out because a judge ruled that voters who wrote her name clearly in the blank space but forgot to fill in the bubble next to the name had to be disqualified. The people of San Diego, in polling, clearly agreed that those votes should have counted, whether they supported that particular candidate or not. And even the judge, in his ruling, acknowledged that these voters had an extra burden placed upon them because they happened to be using an optical scan ballot, and that he had to rule the way he ruled to follow the letter of the law. This burden doesn't exist for write-in voters on touchscreen voting, punch card systems, or other voting mechanisms. So sponsored by the Secretary of State, this bill, AB 503, corrects this inequity and allows for legitimate outcomes for future elections. It ensures that all write-in votes for qualified candidates can be counted, even if the voter forgets to fill in the bubble, as long as the voter's intent is clear. The bill is, as I said, sponsored by the Secretary of State, supported by Californians Aware, Common Cause, the Environmental Health Coalition, League of Women Voters, and the California chapter of NOW. With me today to speak on the bill is Rhonda Pascal, representing the Secretary of State. Rhonda?
Hi, Rhonda.
Hi.
Witnesses in support.
Mr. Chair, thank you, and members of the committee. Rhonda Pascal on behalf of Secretary of State Deborah Bowen, the sponsor of this measure. Members, you heard a similar measure at our last hearing by Assemblymember Bonilla, and I just want to clarify that that addressed this particular issue after the canvass period and set up the process here. This provides the process that would occur as an option for elections officials during the canvass period. We believe the two measures complement each other, will help ensure that where the voter's intent can be ascertained, that those votes are in fact counted. Happy to answer any questions the committee has and respectfully urge the committee's support.
Others in support.
Elena Perez with the California National Organization for Women in support of the bill.
Others in support.
Trudy Schaefer, representing the League of Women Voters of California, also in support of the bill.
No motion. How about opposition? Any opposition? Ooh.
Jill Levine, Registrar of Voters for Sacramento County, representing the California Associations of Clerks and Election Officials. And we oppose this bill, probably for the same reasons that Rhonda supports it, but this happens during the canvass time. And so it's after all eligible votes are counted, then we run a report that shows us how many undervotes they have and if there'd be enough in those undervotes to change the election outcome, and then we have to get this done before the 28 days of the canvass time. The cost is borne by the election official, not the person requesting the recount like any other recount. And the other concern, of course, is if it was a vote for 4 and the voter only voted for 1, it would show 3 undervotes. And actually, the voter already voted, and it would the way it would come out would look like there was a lot of opportunities to win, and there really aren't. So the voter does have to take, like I say, some responsibility, and it is a voter's choice to only vote for 1, even though there would be 3 undervotes. So we oppose this on cost and the timing.
Others in opposition? Will of the committee? You have a comment, Mr. Malfa?
Yeah, it's my job.
That's fine.
Again, this is a little bit of a deja vu deal, but it comes back to follow the instructions. Fill in the bubble, and it causes a lot less impact on the elections office, who's hustling now to make the 28-day mark in many cases for all they have to do now with new provisionals and with tighter periods. And when we get to the point of same-day registration, it's going to be chaos completely there. So if you can't fill in the bubble and follow the basic directions, then in some cases, you're going to lose out. So a little more tough love needs to happen in these cases here. You have also the subjectivity of interpretation sometimes of how someone intends to vote, and that shouldn't be going on. People should be knuckling down enough to be responsible for their vote. If you're not going to get it right, then you're going to have to get it right the next time. So that's the kind of the way I was raised around this, and the way I think integrity of elections requires that we continue to strive for. Thank you.
Very good. Will of the committee? A motion. Please call the roll.
Motion is due pass. Correa?
Aye.
Correa, aye. Lamalfa? Lamalfa, no. De Leon? De Leon, aye. Gaines, Lou.
We'll put that measure and call. Thanks very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
let's all the measures that are on call. Let's go through them and get Mr. Kevin De Leon. Yeah, which one we start? Item number 1.
Yeah.
It's AB 41. Please call the row.
AB 41, due pass. Motion is due pass. Chair voted aye. Gaines, Lou.
You already voted.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Sorry. Item 2, AB 182, Davis, De Leon. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, on the consent items. Yes. Aye. Item 3, AB 346, motion is due pass. Correa?
No.
Correa, no. De Leon? Gaines? Item 3, AB 346. De Leon, aye. Is that a... That's a 2-2.
Okay.
Item 4, AB 413. Motion is due pass. Chair voted aye. LaMalfa. De Leon. De Leon, aye. Lou. Item 5, AB 420. Motion is due pass. Correa.
Aye.
Correa, aye. De Leon. De Leon, aye. Gaines.
No.
Gaines, no. That motion passed. Item 6, AB 503. Motion is due pass. Chair voted aye. Gaines.
No.
Gaines, no. Lou. Item 7, AB 732. Motion is,
That's a consent item.
Item 8, AB 867. Motion is due pass. Chair not voting. Gaines.
No.
Gaines, no. Lou. Item 9, AB 1021. Motion is due pass to appropriations. Chair voted aye. De Leon. De Leon, aye. Lou. Item 10, AB 1146. Motion is due pass. Correa. Gaines.
Aye.
Gaines, aye.
This is number 10.
Item 10, yes. Lou. That motion, that passes.
It passes. Very good.
Item 11, AB 1241.
All these measures are back on call until.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 11, AB 1241. Motion is due pass. Correa. De Leon.
I apologize.
That's okay.
Which one is that?
Item 11, AB 1241. De Leon. Lou. Did you want to put on that, Senator?
That's for
Okay.
reconsideration.
All bills will get
Reconsideration.
reconsideration.
Item 12, AB 1357. Motion is due pass. Gaines. Lou.
Aye.
Gaines, aye.
Okay.
And the rest are on consent.
Let me back to 1241.
Yes, Senator. Over there. Item 11, AB 1241. De Leon. De Leon, aye. That measure passes. And we just need-
Let's go to item number. That's it.
That's
We'll
it, the
put those measures back on call. Wait for one more member to come.
Yeah, Senator. Lou needs to vote. like to vote on two items you didn't vote on yet?
Yes, please.
Okay. Item 1, AB 41, motion is due pass. Gaines? Gaines, aye. Item 3, AB 346, motion is due pass. Gaines?
No.
Gaines, no. That motion fails in its reconsideration.
Which one?
Atkinsville, AB 346.
Who did everybody on it?
Everybody voted already.
Okay, very good.
Yes, they called him for
Is Senator Lou coming back? Very good. We'll give him 30 seconds, starting at 20. High-speed ladder rail. I would have given you 45 seconds, Mr. Lou. Okay, let's start again. Item number 1, go ahead.
AB 41, motion is due pass. Chair voted aye. Lou? Aye. Lou, aye. That measure passes. Okay, yes, sir. Consent items, item 2, AB 182, item
7,
732, item 13, 14, 12, and item 14, AB 1413. Gaines? Lou? Aye. Lou, aye.
Item number 3.
No, we already got that one.
Okay. Item 4.
Item 4, AB 413.
All the absent members.
Lou? Aye. Lou, aye. That measure passes.
Am I off on 413?
You wanted to wait on it. I called you. Would you like me to call you again?
Yeah, call all the absent
Okay.
members on these.
Senator LaMalfa, aye.
Gaines, aye.
Gaines, aye.
For Yamada.
Yamada, okay. Item 6, AB 503. Lou?
You got everybody on item
Yes,
number
I
5? Okay, item number 6.
Senator Lou?
Aye.
Senator Lou, aye. That measure passes. Item 8, AB 867. Senator Lou?
Aye.
Lou, aye. Correa?
No.
Correa, no. That measure fails. Reconsideration?
Failed.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Item 9, AB 1021. Lou?
Aye.
Lou, aye. That measure passes. Item 10, AB 1146. Correa?
No.
Correa, no. Lou?
No.
Lou, no. That measure passes. Item 11, AB 1241. Senator Correa?
No.
Senator Correa, no. Lou? Senator Lou, no. That measure passes. Item 12, AB 1357. Senator Lou? Senator Lou, aye. That measure passes. That's it.
How about 13? Are there a consent?
Consent items.
Thank you, Mr. Liu. And seeing no further business for this committee is now adjourned. Thank you for all your participation.